Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. In fact, we have several important topics to discuss. The first one, of course, being a big, important march that will be out there in Washington, D.C., and this march is going to take place, I think, on, Reverend Barber is going to tell you about it, because what I did is over the weekend, I had an interview with him. It's interesting. I know about the interview. I wanted to tell you guys about it on last session on Friday, but I didn't want to because I wasn't sure. I know that he had some other things going on that he said, and so I wanted to make sure it was all right. Well, it turned out we went ahead and we had the interview, and it turned out pretty well. So what I want to do is, before we get started here, I want you to, first of all, stick with me for the entire show, because there is a lot that we want to talk about. There's a lot that I want to talk about with regards to progressive media, and I think it is essential. That we get there. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please, if you can spend this hour with me, I'd like you to spend the hour with me. We're going to talk, and you remember this is a call-in show as well, so you can give us a call in at 646-716-5812. Again, that is 646-716-5812. So here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by playing the Barber interview, and then we'll come in right after that. I'm here with Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II. Dr. Barber, I understand that you're already on your way off to this rally that you're having in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, I'm headed to Washington, D.C., because on Wednesday, the 12th of June, clergy, interfaith, Christians, Muslims, Jewish, Unitarians will be coming together to stand up to what we see as immoral activity, breaking with both covenants, our constitutional covenant and the covenant with our deepest religious values, by the President of the United States and his administration. And that for too long, there has been this core group of religious persons like Jerry Falwell and Franklin Graham and others who have decided to hijack religion and try to use it in the way that endorses President Trump and his administration, when in fact, when you look at what he is doing, his administration's policies violate the very core values of Jesus, which is to care for the poor, the least of these, the immigrant, the sick, and the very violation of our Constitution, which is to establish justice, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare. So we have come to the conclusion that we must issue a prophetic indictment, a kind of a moral impeachment. And we would do it regardless of who is in power, if it was a Democrat doing it. And so we were coming to process straight down Pennsylvania Avenue on Wednesday the 12th, hand in hand in full vestments, clergy vestments, and going to the White House based on a scripture that all major religions honor, is Jeremiah 22, which says when things get like this, the priests, the pastors must go down to the royal palace and deliver a message and challenge those in leadership to stop doing what they're doing, as insofar as it hurts the women, the children, and the least of these, the broken, and the vulnerable and the poor.
Now, Dr. Barber, as I understand it, this movement, this group of Christians and other religions that are going to be participating in this event, we're not talking about right, left, Republican, Democrat. We're talking about just people who realize I want to say the evil that's dropped upon us right now. Is that correct?
Right. We're standing in that same tradition of the prophets of ancient Israel who did not look at left or right. They looked at the moral center and the righteous standards of God. We're standing in that same position of the civil ministers like Dr. King and Rabbi Heschel, the same tradition of persons like Frederick Douglass, and white evangelicals and Quakers in the 1800s during slavery, who stood up against slavery. We're standing in the tradition of those who do not look at left versus right. It's actually wrong to try to suggest there is a left religion and a right religion.
Exactly.
That's not theological. It's not biblical. It gives equal moral standing to things that are not equal. The scriptures are very clear about what our position should be. In the scriptures I follow, it says, Jesus said that every nation would be judged by how that nation treats the poor, the sick, the immigrant, the hungry, and the naked, and then the least of these. And so we are very much in violation of that, and that's why we're coming to deliver this prophetic indictment, both to the president's administration, but also to challenge these other religious leaders who are hijacking religion and in some sense performing heresy in the midst of right in our face.
Now, you mentioned something that is quite important, and that is, for all practical purposes, one particular party implicitly adopted religion as theirs, which we know it's not the case. My question to you is, the leaders have done that. How do we talk to the average American citizen who they're good people following their pastor, following their leader, following the shepherd? How do we convince them that it is time to break away from assuming that republicanism is equivalent to Christianity or whatever? How do we teach them that they have to move on from that fallacy?
Well, one thing, we have to be conspicuous in the public square, and that's why people are coming with us who are quote unquote evangelicals. I'm an evangelical and raised as such, but I'm also a biblicist. I'm also one who looks clearly at the scriptures, and we have to challenge that. We would not dare call people bad, but we have to challenge the leadership openly. In the ancient world, they would have councils, like the Nicene Council, and they would come together to examine the positions. Many of the persons today who are engaged in this false moral narrative of religious nationalism, they won't dare sit down. We've challenged them to do so openly and publicly. So we must be conspicuous in love and truth and a commitment to justice to show people that what they're seeing is actually wrong. Anytime you have a group of people trying to suggest that if you are for prayer in the schools, you are against women's right to choose, you are for guns, you are for tax cuts, you are against civil rights, you are against health care, that somehow those positions are quote-unquote positions of authentic faith rooted in our deepest religious values, is just wrong. And you have to expose it openly. That's why we're coming as clergy. And that's why this same group of clergy is saying to Democrats and Republicans, particularly in the election year, we're not endorsing candidates. We're endorsing issues. We're endorsing us to examine, calling America to examine every policy by our deepest constitutional values first, which is establishing justice, and by our deepest religious values, since almost every politician that gets elected puts their hand on a holy book and swears to uphold the Constitution. In some sense, they need to know what's in the book they put their hand on, and in the Constitution they swear to uphold. And we've gone way outside of those bounds, and we can no longer be silent, quiet, dismissive, just say, oh, that's just a bunch of folk over there somewhere, because they have made their way all the way into the White House and other places to the point that they will go in and literally pray, P-R-A-Y, for a president or his administration to be successful, while that administration is praying, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G, on the very people that by our deepest religious values we are told we are supposed to care for, lift up, and empower.
There's nothing more profound. You do not endorse candidates, you endorse issues. That is profound. Now tell me about your movement, not only the Moral Mondays movement, but several of the other movements that you're involved with, in my humble opinion, should have much more coverage in every media, not only the independent media, but in the mainstream media that we're currently getting. When the Tea Party was vogue, 3 or 4 of them could get together and get national coverage on every single major news station. Tell me about, in your opinion, that is, the complicity of, let's say, somewhat the mainstream media and us not getting, when I say us, I mean those who are in the know about what's right for the country, getting those notions into the mainstream. What's the complicity as you see it with the mainstream media?
Well, you know, this group, the so-called religious right, has deep history that goes all the way back to slave master religion. They have had always deep financing, deep commitment. I was reading something the other day where the spiritual mobilization group that was formed to try to block the New Deal in the 1930s and 40s, Kevin Cruz in his books talks about the purchasing of the American pulpit, lays out how much money was given to them by big corporations and how they set them up in the media and put before them every tool. And we see that somewhat today, but the media today should not follow that. You know, last week when Franklin Graham had 250 people sign a letter call for prayer for Trump, you heard it on almost all the media. We have over 5,000 signatures. We have not just Christians, but Christians, Muslims, Jews, and others. And we are pushing for it to get in the media. They cannot be allowed, and we cannot be complicit in allowing this form of modern day, what I call modern day heresy, and it's not heresy, it's certainly theological malpractice, to have kind of a carte blanche when it comes to the media, and there be no challenge to that. We have to raise this, and the media has to not, as I say, fall into the trap of the puny, the anemic language of left versus right. If they are having access all the way to the White House, they must be challenged. Just like what we're saying, there should be an examination of it. Let's have the open conversation, the open debate. Let's talk about it. Let's look at what our deepest religious values actually say. When you're talking about clergy that are coming together this Wednesday in a way that we've not seen, right down Pennsylvania Avenue, clergy from all of our major religious ministers like Rabbi Waskar, who traces his history all way back to Rabbi Heschel, who stood with Dr. King, who's in his late 80s, but says, I can no longer just sit on the sideline in the midst of this. This is a serious time for this nation, and we are seeing too much endorsement of policies in the name of religion that are actually counter our deepest religious values. And the media cannot really sit on the sideline. If they've given this kind of time to the so-called extreme religious right, I don't use those terms, then there must be a counterbalance to that. It must be, and we can have nothing less than that.
Dr. Barber, one more time, could you tell us exactly what's going to be happening next week on Wednesday the 12th?
It is called Witness Wednesday, Moral Witness Wednesday. We will meet at the New York Presbyterian Church on Pennsylvania Avenue, and around 10 o'clock, we will process straight down Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House, and there we will deliver a moral indictment We will deliver letters. Some persons, we will be engaging in direct action. We will be saying to the White House, the President, and administration, what the Scripture says. It is time to stop your attack on immigrants, your attack on the sick, your attack on people based on race, your attack on the most vulnerable. We will deliver a prophetic indictment against what is happening. And we will be saying to the nation, as people of faith, it is time for people of conscience to not only send a tweet, to send an email, but to stand up, to organize, to speak out, to register to vote, to mobilize, because what we are seeing in in the midst of our lives right now in this nation is a fundamental attempt to deliberately push aside our deepest religious and our deepest constitutional values in a way that is hurting this country, and will hurt it for years and years to come. And we must say enough is enough in this time.
The Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II, architect of the North Carolina Moral Mondays, president of Repairers of the Breach, and co-chair of Poor People's Campaign. Thank you so kindly for having been with us with Politics Done Right, Dr. Barber. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
God bless you. Take care.
Okay, that was Reverend Dr. William Barber, and we had that interview on Saturday morning. It was interesting because, as you notice, his picture is still in the video, and the reason why is because we had it all set up with the links and all of that to bring him into our Wirecast broadcasting system. But what happened is he had some illness in the family, and he had to take off and go take care of that. And this guy's a great guy. He knew he had an appointment to do the interview with me, and he wanted to keep it. So while in the car, his publicist or assistant called and said, hey, this is what's going on now. What do you want to do? And so forth. And is it okay if we can go ahead and do it by phone, even though we have the link for the setup and everything? Of course, I said, absolutely so. Let's go ahead and do it. This is a very important issue about the march. And several things he had to say. One of the most important things he had to say had to do with religion. The left has allowed, we on the left, the other side is not more moral, more social, more godly, more for those who are godly, more religious, more than the left at all. They simply decided that they were going to take over the religion as if it's theirs. But here's the funny thing about it. The values that we are fighting for, the values progressives fight for, and I'm a humanist. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm none of that. I'm just a humanist. I believe in supporting human beings. That's my goal in life, making sure humans are taken care of. Now, what's interesting is if you take a look at the tenets of progressives, if you take a look at what we represent, it is quite interesting that if you then go ahead and read the Bible and you read the tenets of Jesus Christ, that we are closer. I'm not saying we're perfect. We are closer to what this guy was asking of humans to be. We are not the ones that are very vindictive in our policies. We are not the ones that are controlling in our policies. We're not the ones that are writing policies that are selfish. We're not the ones that are saying individualism. That's not us. That's not us at all. And it is imperative that we as progressives not cede them that ground. And if you listen to what Barber said, he said, we had to be there. And again, I'm speaking from a person that's just a humanist. And I like to say just a humanist because in reverence to those people who are spending the time to build up their religion, right? I have respect for you guys. I'm not into that, but I respect you guys for all the work that you do, right? To get these things, to get the pew together. And I can tell you, progressives, listen to me well, progressives. You guys the progressives that are Christians, which are most, you all are living the tenets much more so than those who profess to be of that tenet. And we should not give them the latitude. We should not give them the opportunity to take that away from you. It is imperative we don't give them that opportunity to take that away from you. You know, when I made a cutout of Reverend Barber's statement on religion, right? Because I wrote it in the blog post. I wrote a separate blog post about what he had to say about religion. And the word, I love the word that he used. Barber said we should be conspicuous in the public sphere. Conspicuous in the public square. One of the things that I think many progressives who are Christians live by is that thing that that part of the Bible that talks about you not having to show your you don't have to be praying out and shouting loud so that everybody can see, oh look, he's religious, he's praying, he's of God. That's not necessary. Just where one and two meet in my name, a church we have. Something to that effect. There is a scripture. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the interview with William Barber. If you are going to be in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, please go out and march down Pennsylvania Avenue with those guys. March down Pennsylvania Avenue. Remember, the Tea Party can put together 25 people and they get a ton of coverage. All the cameras go in. Tight coverage. Tight. They go in tight for these guys. We can bring thousands. And they give a wide picture of the thousands are in a mall where you need tens of thousands to look like a lot. And that's what they'll show. They'll have 10 Tea Party folks and they give a close shot to give the belief that somehow they have more than they do. Now, I'm talking about the media. I'm going to be talking about, and this, what I'm going to be talking about next also is going to be self-serving to some extent. And forgive me, but it is important. And as much as it's self-serving for me, it is serving to Tom Hartman, it is serving to the Majority Report, it is serving to the Young Turks, it is serving to all these guys that are doing exactly what we're trying to do, and that is to get the progressive message out. But beforehand, I want you to if you turn on to CNN, if you turn on to MSNBC right now, if you turn on to any of these channels right now, a helicopter crashed on to the top of a building. We don't know exactly why or anything yet, but that's all we know. We know the building is not falling. We know the fire in the helicopter for all practical purposes out. And we know the pilot is dead. Okay? We know nothing else, and we won't know anything else for a long time. But our great mainstream media, and I turned to MSNBC, I turned to CNN, and I turned to Fox News, the three major news networks. All of them are in a loop talking about one helicopter that crashed onto the roof on one building out of several tens of thousands of buildings in New York City. And that is what people are listening to right now. There is so much happening in Congress right now with John Dean speaking. John Dean talking about the similarities between with the Trump administration and the Nixon administration. There's a lot to talk about with what the Partnership for the Healthcare of America's Future is doing. There's a lot to talk about what occurred in Iowa, that Mr. Biden didn't show up in Iowa. He claimed that he had a party to go to or a graduation or something with a granddaughter, understood. But we have a lot to talk about Elizabeth Warren surging in the polls. There's so much to talk about. We have a lot to talk about what is happening with employment in this country. Employment is supposedly 3.6%. The growth of employment this month was a lot lower than expected, and the last 2 months they had to reduce the amount that they said were employed. Also employed, we have the gig economy, the Ubers and the Lyfts and the and rent your own house, all these different parts of this economy, what they call the gig economy, going strong, right? But what we're starting to find out, as you saw in an interview I did with an Uber driver a few weeks ago, is that as more people are forced into the gig economy, what is starting to happen is they're trying to pilfer them some more, because what happens, the big guys, the guy at Uber still made $40 million, but all of his drivers are making pennies. They can barely make it. As it turns out, the guy that I showed you the video of, this guy said after he put it on his spreadsheet, he was working for pennies on the dollar. Stay with me, guys. We're going to go into the media in a second. So, I mean, what we have to start looking at is, what is the media doing and what is the media pushing? And because of the stories the media is pushing, and folks, please share this video. Please allow other people to listen, because what I'm going to comment about is very important now. This is very, very important, what I'm going to talk about. Let's share this, baby. Look, we complain about Trump winning. We complain about Trump winning because of the message that he gave that spoke to many. Trump's voters, I'm not talking about the crazies now, but there are a lot of rich Trump voters. They know that he was going to give away the stall. There are the middle of the road voters that think, well, you know what? We've tried Obama, we've tried Bush, we've tried all of this. Why not try this crazy and see if he comes through for us? People do all these things because we are not looking at the underlying problems within our economy. And why aren't we doing that? Look, Americans are busy. Americans are hard workers. Don't let anybody fool you. They would want you to believe, oh, we have to have all these laws. We have to have, not give people family leave because they'll abuse it. Not give people all these different options because they'll abuse it. That's not the American methodology. Americans have never, listen, we are workers, man. You know, you have some slouches, but you can't define the population by the slouches. And also we have to realize that a lot of times the slouches are slouches because their problem is systemic. They never learned civics in school that said work is important. They never learned all these things. So we are going to have to reteach a whole generation what responsibility means and all of that. But we have to invest in them to do that. But we're not going to invest in them if we are just talking the shallow issues. A helicopter crashed into a building and it takes over all news networks. And everything that is important to the person in Iowa, important to the person in Houston, important to the person in San Antonio, San Diego, Arkansas, all these places, go unanswered. That airplane crashing in New York City, even if it's not from what we understand, but even if it were a terrorist attack, one terrorist attack in this humongous country, right? It does not make a difference to every single American and what's going on in this country. The pain that they're feeling, the underemployment that they're feeling, the lack of wage increases that they're feeling. And why is it then that our people will still go ahead and vote for Republicans who continuously want to pass policies that hurt them? But it's not, and the reason why is simple too. I'm going to go into the main reason, but one of the other reasons is simple too, because many times the establishment Democrats don't have the answer either. Because the establishment Democrats to these people are nothing more than Republican light. And if I am going to have light ice cream, a lot of people say, give me the damn fat, because it tastes better. And the light one isn't all that much better for you anymore because they just added a whole lot of sugar to take out the fat. So these are the issues that are at hand here. And we understand now that the mainstream media will not do that. They will go for what they think eyeballs want. They believe that all Americans in this country, all three networks, all Americans in this country want to see a helicopter that crashed into a building in New York. I can guarantee you in Oklahoma City, they have real problems. I can guarantee you that let me tell you, I want to show you guys. You all run for the Trumps and all this thing. There is massive flooding going through the heartland right now. Massive flooding going through the heartland right now. I want all you heartland people that are listening to me, all of you folks in Iowa, in the Dakotas, in these places, you think these guys are on your side? Do you think Fox News is on your side? If America understood the pain that you are going through with the floods right now, we will be clamoring for government to jump in, not half-assedly, but we would fight for government to jump in and take care of all of you that's on the Mississippi, the Arkansas River, and all these rivers that are currently inundated. You need help. The thing about it is this: those rivers and oceans that are being created, oceans of fresh water from the excessive moisture in the rain, in the air caused by global climate change, caused by us continuously supporting the companies and corporations that are killing us, they're not there to help you. Hell, they run the television stations. They are the ones who support the networks. They're the ones who pay the bills for the networks. They're not there to help you. But you won't vote policies that make sure that you're taken care of. Instead, you vote for policies that support those corporations. And anybody who talks about taxing the hell out of them for the damage that they're doing, you're a socialist. Robert Wright wrote an article, and I'm going to post it later on, about don't let that fool you. Don't let that lie get an upper hand. You cannot allow that lie to get an upper hand, folks. You just cannot. They want to have a lot of other material to cover. When these incidents come out, like helicopter crashed into a building in New York, they know that's not an important story in the aggregate. They know that. But if they are not, if these kinds of stories that they can monopolize on to take your time, take your eyeballs off the air, off the goal, that is, they know they may eventually have to talk some real stuff, or accidentally someone like Anand Girad Haradas may come on and say, all this stuff with the billionaires is crap. We have to really start changing policy. As Elizabeth Warren said yesterday in Iowa, she said, this country is ready for systemic change. I beg to differ with her at the time that she said it. She is right. This country needs systemic change. We need the change in our economy. We need to have a different kind of economy that really rewards work and worth, and not those people who move money or those people who calculate monies. We need to change this economy to an economy that respects and pay those who produce something of value. That is what we have to do. So we do need systemic change. But Americans are confused because the news seems completely divested from what it needs to be invested in. And what is that? We ought to start telling people what the real problems are. But the mainstream media cannot do that because the mainstream media is owned by the same people who will have to pay the pauper when we get our will. And we will get our will. Eventually, Americans are going to get smart to the particular issues, the particular things that run this country. But why can't we get there right now? And this is the part that I said I was going to talk to you about that is a bit self-serving. While at Starbucks writing actually I wasn't writing a blog, I was actually putting my GoFundMe together, cleaning up my GoFundMe, and I still need to clean it up some, but I'd like you to go to the GoFundMe for Politics Done Right that I'm doing right now. Here's the deal. I was listening to Tom Hartman, and Tom Hartman came on with a plea for speech TV. You know the Tom Hartman show is played on Free Speech TV, and of course it's played on KPFT 90.1 FM and other Pacifica network stations. And he came on with an urgent message. He said, look, we are only at 20% of our where we should be in our budget in collecting our contributors, monies from our contributors. 20%. That's all they've done, 20% of where they should be. That is dire straight for an independent, progressive network like Free Speech TV. So Free Speech TV needs the help of all of us. I am going to go ahead and give my little donation to Free Speech TV later on today after having been admonished by El Señor Tom Hartman. But it's not only Free Speech TV. It's the Pacifica Network. It is Tom Hartman's show. It is Politics Done Right. And we think we have an idea what the reason is, right? If you take a look at having 24 candidates or so running in the Democratic Party and progressives who reside in the Democratic Party, people have to make a choice, right? Progressives are not rich, or the progressives that matter, the progressives that want a change in our society, a systemic change. Their funds are limited like anybody else, and they have to make choices. And with all these candidates having unlimited budgets to beg, and hear me right, unlimited budgets to beg. I get requests from Buttigieg several times a day. I get requests from Kamala Harris several times a day. I get requests from Biden. I get requests from Bernie. I get requests from everybody many times a day. My inbox is full with people asking for money. And I have a particular candidate that I like, actually two, that I'm going to give to. I haven't given yet to either one of them. But I am not going to give to these candidates the totality of my giving. Because first and foremost, I understand one thing. Let me back up first. Let me tell you who I support. I am supporting all the progressive networks that I respect right now. DailyKoast.com, OpEdNews.com, DemocraticUnderground.com, CoffeePartyUSA.com. Of course, I donate to my party. It's the Democratic Party. I reside in the Democratic Party. I am responsible for being a part of sustaining the Democratic Party. As a progressive, that is. That's what I do. And there are several, KPFT, of course, I'm a donor, a monthly subscriber. I'm a monthly subscriber to all of those. I'm a monthly subscriber to Democratic Underground, Op-Ed News, to Daily Coast, all of those. I'm a monthly subscriber. And also, I will give to two candidates. But first and foremost are those outlets. And why? The reason why we have to support our progressive media, for those of you, I hope you're still with me, is because the only way you are going to get that message, that true message, brothers and sisters, is if we have somebody not controlled by the corporatocracy, who, as opposed to having 24/7 on, having newscasts 24/7 on things that don't matter, we have people talking about things that matter. When I interview people like Reverend Barber, when I interview that young man, that 17-year-old climate activist last week, when I interview the host of the Tom Hartman and all these guys, when we talk about the socioeconomic structure, when we talk about what exactly is worth versus work versus taxes, when we talk about all those issues, we try to go into detail and we try to put it into a manner that you can understand. And in fact, I'm writing a book that's going to detail more of this. I have a book that details that in As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. But I am working on another one as well. But here's the deal, my friends. We need to support the free speech TVs. We need to support the Pacifica networks. We need to support the KPFTs, the KPFAs, KPFKs. Why? Because their funds don't come from anyone else but you. Which means you know our loyalty has to be to the masses, to you. And another thing about giving to all of these candidates, you have people who right now can't make their mind up. So I know somebody who's given money to 6 and 7 and 8 candidates. And I try to remind them of something. Kamala Harris is a millionaire. Biden is a millionaire. All these candidates are millionaires, right? When these candidates send out all those mailers, they have companies that are taking all those mailers and sending it to you. And those companies charge a hell of a dollar, a certain percentage of all the monies they collect from you. Okay? So they get a lot of money from collecting that money for you. And not only that, then what do these candidates do with all that money? Remember, they are already millionaires. They could fund a whole lot of this stuff themselves. But no, they're not going to do that. I can't fund politics done right by myself. I am not independently wealthy. In fact, I've just about killed my retirement for this altruistic endeavor that I intend to continue, that I want to continue doing 24/7. Doing it now for over 8 years, killed it. Now here's the deal. These guys are independently wealthy, but they bombard you with the monies that they're asking you for. But here's the kicker, and this is important. When they collect that money, after those people who collect the money get their cut, that money then goes to these advisors. That money then goes to these consultants. Consultants that never went into the barrios, ghettos, or Appalachia. Listen to me good. These consultants are in ivory towers. And I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or whatever. It's all the same. It's a family. Don't ever think that these consultants are just, so altruistic themselves. They're not. Look how quickly Bernie Sanders lost Sanders, his press secretary, to Biden. How can you switch from working for Bernie and go for Biden? How can you go from true, real, progressive values to neoliberalism? It's just for a buck. Look, a lot of us that do this, we could sell our souls, right? We could go ahead and say, man, we're going to really push the Democratic message unadulterated. We're going to agree with everything. And you can guarantee, because we have a mouthpiece and we have an audience, that the rich people in the party will find a way to donate to us. They'll find a way. Because if we are towing the line, if we're saying all the things that they want us to say, the big funders in the Democratic Party will find us. I can tell you this because they found lowly politics done right to make a few complaints a few times. To which I said, my allegiance is not to the Democratic Party. My allegiance is to Democrats, to progressives. And to be honest with you, my commitment is to Americans. That is my commitment to Americans. That's who my commitment is for. So, what am I trying to say? It's simple. Yeah, give to your 1 or 2 preferred candidates. But make that equation include supporting a base that's going to feed your knowledge, that's going to feed you with truths, that's not going to try to lie to you, that's not going to tell you 180 million Americans are going to lose health care that they love. If you're one of those 180 million Americans with private health care, with a copay and deductibles and having to call insurance companies to see if you're covered, and then if you're covered and somehow a doctor who is not in the plan sees you and then knocks you with a bill, you're stuck. Brothers and sisters, you can't win an election adapting a right-wing talking points of the hell that most Americans are going through right now with private insurance. And you know why they want their private insurance? Because they think it's better than anything else they can get. And what we are promising, progressives are promising, and this is not rocket science. All we're promising is that those people that are screwing you, we are not going to allow them to screw you anymore. That is That's our pact to you. We're not going to allow them to screw you anymore. That's it. And how do we do that? We have to have you. We can tell you the story. In fact, if you notice, what I've started to do is to get the story of real people. I'm trying to get most of them on videos because videos are powerful. Videos are powerful. So that's what I'm trying to do. Get all these stories on videos. Let people see what that good old private insurance looked like. That private insurance that Senator Bennett says people want, and he doesn't want to take away their health insurance. He sounded just like a right-wing Republican when he said that. Biden says the same thing. Klobuchar says the same thing. Oh, taking away the 108. Bernie had the pelotas to go and say, yes, we don't want private insurance companies. We don't. There is no reason for a private insurance companies. You know what they need to be relegated to? We decide as a society what the basic coverage of healthcare is going to be. And if you want more, you can go buy private insurance if you want it. Let them sock it to you. But we know basically what it takes. I mean, we know what people are doing in England and Canada and all these other places. And since we are charged so much more, it will not be difficult for us, the amount of money we pay, to fix any deficiencies we find in any one of their particular systems. It's not at all difficult. So what I'm asking you folks is simple. Please, as you support different politicians, do remember that before you support any politician, you have to support your means of information. You need to support your means of information first. And while what I'm saying is self-serving, I understand that. It is self-serving. But this self-serving is moral. This self-serving is, we want to do what is right. We already know that, yes, it's nice to give these candidates monies, but we also know where this money is going. And when you give monies to the Free Speech TV, the Pacifica Network, the Tom Hartman Show, the Politics Done Right program, when you do that, you know where it's going. Your money is going into all of this here. I have a GoFundMe because we have to replace some of this equipment that is going crazy as we try to process videos. So I'm asking you guys to go to my GoFundMe, which is in the blog post, and I'm going to post it along the internet as well. I need you really to support. I need you to support our GoFundMe, and I need you to please go ahead and support our Patreon subscription as well. Look, we intend to do good things, folks. We intend to really be out there for you. In fact, we're going to be on Radio Row at Netroots Nation 2019 in 30 days. We'll be on we're talking to all those politicians that are running, talking to all the activists. I bet Biden won't be there, but we will be there, and we're going to be talking. I know that Kamala is probably going to be there. Booker always go out there. I spoke to him last year when he was out there. So what I'm saying is this: please support these organizations. As Tom is called out, Speech TV needs you. I can call out because I am also on Pacifica Network with the KPFT 90.1 FM. They need your support. KPFT.org need your support. And of course, Politics Done Right at patreon.com/Politics Done Right. Of course, you can go to politicsdoneright.com, click donate, and you can choose what you want to do. But we also need support to get some new hardware. So please go to our GoFundMe page. The link is on some of the videos, and the link is also on inside of the blog. This is not fun, you know. I mean, coming from a place where I have a software company that I gave up. It was easy. I had price and power then. I was the one in control. Well, I was the one who was chosen, who then became in control. Remember my story about America is, to some extent, is a meritocracy, but a lot of it is also chosen. Yes, I was meritorious in the softwares that I developed, as well as Greenleaf, who developed software as well. In some companies, they chose mine, so I was chosen. Was it always better than the other? Absolutely not. The humility that one has to admit when they realize we live in a social construct is amazing. But once that humility, once you once you see the reality of how things work, a new humility comes over you. And I'm not talking about false humility. There's a hell of a lot of false humility out there. I'm talking about one where you can finally respect, oh my God, the reality is I got a break. Yeah, I'm good at what I do. I'm not denying that. And many people are good at what they do. But many don't get the breaks because we're not a true meritocracy. We've never been a true meritocracy, ever. That's a fallacy that I think actually causes a lot of depression. A fallacy that causes a lot of depression. Okay, let me go to my ask real quick here and then I'll come back. But please, folks, please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Support the show. Please realize that those of you who support me get all my books online. As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. That book is still valid. Everything that we talk about in there. It's a shame that nothing has changed. So little has changed. So that is what we have to. So the solutions in this book applies. And of course, I'm writing the book, How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. And my book, Lose Weight and Be Fit. Now, we're going to be activists. We're going to be activists for a very long time. And we better keep ourselves healthy. Lose weight and be fit now. That is what I had to do to lose weight and be fit. Get my pressure under control. Folks, we need your support. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Look, like I mentioned about Tom Hartman earlier today. Tom Hartman, you could hear the urgency in his voice earlier today on his show. The urgency was that the media outlets that need to be there, the outlets that have to be there to counteract what's going on the three networks, the three cable networks right now. No news, just a helicopter that crashed. And I bet if I turn it on right now, it's probably the same thing that's on. We can't survive like that. This is the new media. This is independent media. This is where you're going to get real info. And that was the essence of the show today other than Barber. I wanted to put in your minds that there's only one set of outlets that really will be out there looking for you because they owe their allegiance to no one but you. Allegiance to no one but those who support us. And the ones who support us, the people in mass, the masses. And that's the best place to get your support because we know who is boss. We know who we have to protect. We know who we have to support. We know who we have to inform. And most of us, I can tell you, I spoke before the interview with Tom, spoke to him for quite a while. And we believe in what we're doing, not just internally we believe. We know what we're doing is imperative. It's important. And why is it important? That skyline behind me is a skyline of Panama City. That's a country that I'm originally from. That's the skyline of Panama City. You know how many Panamanians can live in that skyline? It's beautiful. When I went home to visit, and I saw the skyline, and I drove on what they call the Cinta Costera. That's the road that they built up dirt in front of people who had beachfront property that wouldn't move, and that beautiful freeway that goes across, that goes behind those buildings, because the bay is behind those buildings, and beautiful Pacific Ocean. That's Panama. And I can show that beautiful picture, but you know what? 99% of Panamanians cannot be found in those buildings. They can't even afford a square foot of those buildings. That is beautiful. Go 6 blocks back and see what it looks like. That is where we're heading to. You know, people tell me when we talk about economic systems, look at what we built. Look at the skyline. Look at those beautiful buildings. Look at all. And my question is always, but can you use them? Why is it we have an economic system where you can build them, where you can promote them, but you can't touch them, you can't live in them, you couldn't even if you wanted to? That beauty more than we understand is our future. More than you understand, there are places that mimic exactly where we are going. And unless progressives are successful in what we're doing, that's where we're headed. And the only way we're successful is if you make sure the progressive media, the ones that are going to be there to telling you the truth, don't go away. One more time, folks, please go ahead and subscribe to Politics Done Right at patreon.com/Politics Done Right. That is patreon.com/Politics Done Right. Or visit our GoFundMe. We're raising some monies right now to revamp some of our equipment. Hopefully before we get to, I really hope we can get this done before we get to Netroots. But folks, more than ever, you're needed. Support a few of your candidates, but remember, most of your support belong with those who are going to inform you about those candidates. That is how it should be. If you really think about why wouldn't it be? We're about to elect a millionaire out of a whole family of millionaires. It's not a knock at all. It's not bad that they're millionaires. But what I'm trying to tell you is, as they run, and as many of us are going to feel pain when our particular candidate doesn't win, they won't be feeling that pain as millionaires. They won't be feeling that pain because all the pain came from those who donate. Right? And what did you get for it? We're a continuum. We intend to be here. We intend to watch. We intend to make sure that they stay in their lane and they maintain their promises lest they be called out. And we hope by having this platform, let people revolt, peacefully that is, to force them to do what needs to be done. Folks, we're coming to the end of the program. Again, please go to patreon.com/Politics Done Right or visit our page and go to our GoFundMe. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. I thank you so kindly for spending this time with me. And you know how I end this baby? I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3.